Breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Here's a look at the latest radar as we track Debbie as it moves up the coast. Today is the day that we'll start to see some of the rain bands. I'll show you how much rain we're expecting.
We are also keeping an eye on the storm effects as Debbie inches its way up the East Coast this morning. We're getting a live look at Myrtle Beach right now as parts of Georgia and South Carolina are getting hit with those storm's bands. We're live in Wilmington as well with a look at the conditions live right there right now.
And we're also giving you a live look in Charleston, South Carolina, as it's a little dark this morning, but still some rain pushing in that area. We'll get you a closer look here in just a couple of minutes.
And breaking news, a man is seriously hurt after an early morning shooting in downtown Raleigh. The damage to buildings in the area. We have a lot to cover this morning, beginning with Debbie. That will be the big weather story all week. We're glad you're with us. I'm Renee Chu.
And I'm Jeff Hogan. Yeah, good to have you along as we get our Tuesday started. It is going to be several day event here. We're going to make sure that you are prepared for it. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center right now with that big picture look at Debbie.
Yeah, so we see the center of circulation here, and of course, it's not going to be so much about where exactly the center is now. It's all about the rain. The rain tends to be north of the center of circulation with these storms, and we're going to start to see some of the heavier rain bands affecting the Wilmington area, our coastline, and our southern counties in particular. Right now, we're looking at winds at 45 miles per hour. The center of the storm is well south in Georgia. It's moving northeast at 7, and of course, that's a fairly slow movement for a system like this. And we're expecting that to be the case, and that's why it's going to dump so much rain, because it's going to be such a slow mover. As we get into the day tomorrow, it may move back out into the Atlantic and then back on shore in South Carolina, and then just directly across North Carolina with a lot of rain and some gusty winds. So a flood watch goes into effect today, lasts until Friday. Wednesday through Friday will be a WRAL weather alert day, and our area will see up to 5 to 10 inches of rain. Looking at 15 to 20 from the North Carolina line down through South Carolina. That's just south of our viewing area, but we're looking at 5 to 7 in our northern counties, 7 to 10 from Raleigh southward, and as much as 10 to 15 closer to Wilmington. We will start to see some rain today. As we get through the morning, there may be a few isolated showers, and then we start to see some of those rain bands by lunchtime. You can see that from Southern Pines to Goldsboro, and that will be the beginning of what's going to be a long period of rain bands moving through our area. So it does start today right around lunchtime. So it's 20% chance this morning. We get to a 70% chance as we get into the evening. And of course, we're looking at our temperature at 77. 72 is our current dew point, and we'll see temperatures on the cool side in the mid 80s. Coming up, we're going to talk more about how much rainfall we will see over the entire period.
Tropical Storm Debbie is now making its way up the East Coast. This is a live look. Left side of your screen, you see the rain on the camera there. That's Myrtle Beach. And right now, the storm is creeping its way north. Very slowly, very slow pace, leaving rain and flooding all over parts of Georgia and Florida. And here's what we know. New this morning, at least 4 people have died as a result of this storm. At 11:30 last night, President Biden approved a state of emergency declaration in Georgia. Previously, he approved them in Florida and South Carolina. Governor Roy Cooper has issued a state of emergency here in North Carolina as we prepare for Debbie's arrival.
The city of Savannah, Georgia, is dealing with unprecedented flooding from Debbie. Dozens of streets are closed, and local authorities warn the flooding may only get worse. The city could see more than 15 inches of rain this week as Debbie slowly moves by. We are keeping an eye on things here in our state as Debbie makes its way up the East Coast. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey joins us live from Wrightsville Beach this morning. And Kelsey, that area is expected to get a lot of rain. What are you seeing now?
Renee, we aren't seeing that rain just yet, but we are experiencing just a little light wind. So right now it's humid, but still somewhat comfortable. Red flags will be flying here on the beach this morning. The National Weather Service using that as a reminder for swimmers about high risk for rip currents. So take a look at this video from last night. You can see some rain coming down around sunset. There were scattered showers here on the beach yesterday. This morning, New Hanover County's emergency management team is warning people. They say now is the time to review your emergency plan. As we're anticipating nearly 2 months of rain over the course of this week, the number one concern is flooding. After Hurricane Florence in 2018, New Hanover County officials invested in more equipment like high water vehicles.
we had opportunity from Florence to learn not only, from our community itself and how we can better support and make improvements in our infrastructure, but from our surrounding localities, the surrounding jurisdictions, the surrounding states.
County officials are warning folks in this area. They say even though you may have experienced a hurricane before, you still should take this storm seriously. They will be sending out updates on their social media about the status of the county. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Wrightsville Beach.
Good morning. I'm Chris Levingood here in the WRAL Live Center. Essentially this morning, I've been tasked with looking into some of the live cameras that we have seen to see the effects of Debbie. This is Charleston, South Carolina, where the city there actually warned its residents over the weekend of imminent life-threatening flooding. And right now, as you can see, what's basically happened here is the camera's kind of shaking as the wind's blowing, and you'll even be able to see toward the bottom of the screen those trees moving as well. The city even providing sandbags to protect people's properties from these rising waters. Obviously, it's a little dark right now. We're going to keep looking at this camera as sunlight continues to peek through. Obviously, it's 4:30 in the morning, so we should see some sunlight in a couple of hours. But yeah, it just gives you an example, at least of how windy things are right now. And hopefully, given a couple of hours, we'll see just how rainy it is as well.
And this is just the beginning of Debbie. Chris, thank you. WRAL will have team coverage from the coast all day and all week as Tropical Storm Debbie makes its way toward North Carolina. We're helping you get prepared before Debbie arrives, and we'll be here to help you stay safe during the storm.
Other news we're following this morning. We have breaking news. A man has serious injuries after a shooting in downtown Raleigh. This happened around 1 a.m. Nick Perlin is in the WRAL breaking news tracker at the Raleigh Police Department. Nick, this shooting also shattered some windows out of a building.
That's right, Jeff. That's the PNC Plaza there on Martin Street, and that's where we saw Raleigh police early this morning investigating this shooting. I want to get you some video just so you can get a better look at what this crime scene looked like. And not only can you see this entire area taped off, but you can see those evidence markers there on the sidewalk. We do know that one person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but there's more to this shooting because you can see this is other video that we got from Davie Street, and you can see Raleigh police here in front of Sir Walter Coffee here, just taping off the area and also looking for more information and more evidence. It's also worth mentioning that some witnesses there told me that they saw a man being taken to the hospital in that area. We're still working with Raleigh police to try to figure out what exactly happened early this morning. We do know that nobody was taken into custody, so we're still trying to learn if they know who fired those shots early this morning. As more information becomes available, I'll be sure to update you. Live in Raleigh, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
Breaking news, Vice President Kamala Harris has formally secured the Democratic presidential nomination, making her the first woman of color to lead a major party ticket. Harris's nomination became official after a 5-day round of online balloting by Democratic National Convention delegates. In a statement released just before midnight, the party said that 99% of delegates casting ballots had done so for Harris. This morning, we will find out who will be Vice President Harris's running mate. She is expected to make that announcement this morning before her rally in Philadelphia. Harris has reportedly narrowed her search to 3 finalists: Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. A campaign spokesperson said Harris has not made a final decision.
Police in Raleigh are trying to make an arrest after a shooting left a man seriously hurt. This incident happened off Navajo Drive off Wake Forest Road, right near the Beltline. Just after 8 o'clock last night is when this happened. Video from the WRAL breaking news tracker shows the large number of police officers and first responders at that scene. We're working to learn more about how badly the man was hurt and whether police have any leads in the case.
Covering Wake County, today school board members will discuss approving raises for teachers and bus drivers. They're considering raising the minimum pay for bus drivers to $20 an hour. They also have plans for supplemental increases for educators, along with other raises. The school board first talked about these raises back in the spring. Staff says they can happen now after the legislature approved the scheduled 2024-25 state pay raises. The board's discussion starts at 3 today. We'll be monitoring it. The vote is scheduled for the evening session, which starts at 5:30. The Wake County school system says it has enough bus drivers to cover every route this school year. According to the agenda for today's school board meeting, Wake Schools has more drivers than at this point last year. It also has fewer planned routes, so fewer drivers are required. It's unclear how that might change how long it takes students to get to school.
Things are well underway in Paris on this Tuesday, now that we are in week 2 of the 2024 Olympics. This morning at 9 o'clock our time, we'll see who takes home the gold in the women's diving 10-meter platform final. At 11 a.m., the women's volleyball quarterfinals get underway with Team USA taking on Poland. 1:35 this afternoon, it's track and field events starting with several men's and women's finals, including the women's hammer throw and the men's long jump. You can watch all the action right here on WRAL. And there's been another history-making moment on the podium. This is the first time a gymnastics podium has been entirely made up of black athletes. Simone Biles earned silver for the floor competition. Teammate Jordan Childs took bronze, and the pair bowing to Brazil's Rebecca Andrade, who won gold. Many are wondering if this was Biles' last Summer Games or if we might see her again competing in Los Angeles. She could give some insight into that this morning on Today during a live interview. And to help keep track of today's events at the Olympic Games, we have a viewing guide on WRAL.com. You can follow your favorite sports and athletes, find the complete schedule day by day, what's on each channel and what's streaming and where. And WRAL.com is the place. Just search Olympic schedule.
Boeing executives will have to answer more questions today about safety failures on its planes. Who they'll be answering to when talking about the door plug blowout on an Alaska Airlines flight earlier this year.
Also, more lawmakers are calling for the FDA to approve new treatment for PTSD. Why researchers believe MDMA therapy could help.
And this is a live look at Beaufort. Our coastal communities could see a foot of rain or more. We're keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Debbie as it works its way up the East Coast. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner will join us with the newest information on where the storm is going.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
And it's 4:45, and we have plenty of rain spreading across South Carolina, starting to move into the southeast coastal area and, of course, headed our way. Today's the day that we will start to see some of these heavier rain bands, and, of course, they're coming from the south. So folks in Fayetteville are going to see that first, and then it will continue to push on up into the Triangle area and up to Virginia as we get through the day. By lunchtime, it's about a 40% chance, but by 4 or 5 o'clock during the evening commute, about a 70% chance of rain. We do have a flood watch that begins today, looking at 5 to 10 inches of rain across our viewing area. This lasts until Friday, and Wednesday through Friday will be a weather alert day. We also have the potential for some tornadoes. We're going to talk about that threat coming up. It's a dry start for us this morning. Walking the dog later this evening, though, it's going to be wet.
Boeing executives are set to face questions from the National Transportation Safety Board today about January's in-flight door plug blowout. The NTSB is holding 2 days of public testimony. The airline's senior vice president of quality and vice president of supplier quality are scheduled to appear. The board is planning to ask about the lack of documentation that led to the plane being delivered to Alaska Airlines without critical bolts in place.
Turn now to markets in Asia that are open right now. Japan shares soared in early trading today, gaining back most of their record losses from Monday. Other Asia-Pacific markers also have opened higher. The Nikkei index is soaring this morning. It's up 10%, nearly making up the 12% it dropped the day before. Yesterday was tough on Wall Street, though, with the Dow falling more than 1,000 points, its worst day in nearly 2 years. Investors say lower job numbers in July and worries the Fed is taking too long to drop those interest rates could be having an effect.
A devastating brush fire in California has damaged several homes. The Edge Hill fire broke out around 3 Monday afternoon in San Bernardino County and quickly spread. Evacuations were ordered for all people living in the neighborhoods as flames consumed homes. At least one home burned down to the foundation. Firefighters are working to contain the fire from the air and on the ground. It's still unclear what sparked the flames.
President Biden says he has been briefed on several U.S. personnel who are believed to be injured after a suspected rocket attack in Iraq. This happened at an air base there. The attack came amid growing fears the Israel-Hamas war would spill over into a wider conflict following assassinations in Beirut and Tehran last week.
Concerns are growing in the UK after protesters and police clashed over the weekend following last week's stabbing at a children's exercise class in England. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer convened an emergency security meeting yesterday to talk about a response to the riots. Over the weekend, people across the country woke up to scenes of buildings burning and hotels being stormed by angry mobs. This comes after 3 girls were killed and others hurt during a stabbing attack at a dance class. False claims about the attacker's ethnicity and origin quickly spread online, fueling the violence.
Louisiana schools are getting a look at how they'll be required to display the 10 Commandments inside classrooms. Louisiana's Attorney General unveiled several schools' posters. Here you see them. They show the 10 Commandments next to portraits of people, including House Speaker Mike Johnson and late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A new Louisiana law requires every public school classroom to have one of these posters. Some parents and civil rights organizations have sued to stop the law, saying it violates the separation of church and state.
9 staff members who worked for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees may have been involved in the October 7th attack on Israel. That's according to an internal investigation. The investigation was started in January after Israel accused some employees of taking part in the attack that left 1,200 people dead. Some of the 9 were fired in January, while others were fired this spring. The U.S. historically, as the relief agency's largest donor, has not reinstated funding for the organization after these findings.
A bipartisan group of lawmakers is calling for the FDA to approve use of the drug known as ecstasy to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. The FDA is set to issue a decision by Monday on whether to allow PTSD treatment using the drug, officially known as MDMA. 80 members of Congress wrote letters to the agency and President Joe Biden in support of the treatment. In June, only 2 of 11 FDA advisors said they consider the treatment effective. Only 1 said the benefits outweigh the risks. 4:50 is the time right now. 10 minutes before 5 here. Let's get over to Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Another look at this slow-moving Debbie.
Big problem as slow moving storms like this have a lot of time to dump rain over particular areas. And so the coast of South Carolina, parts of Georgia, likely to see the heaviest amounts of rain, which could be 15 to 20 inches or maybe even more than that. And you can see some heavy rain in Charleston right now. That's going to continue to push northward and up across our area. We're going to start to see those rain bands today in the Triangle by lunchtime and maybe a little later on this morning. We'll see those down around the Fayetteville area. So what's new? We have WRAL weather alert days for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're looking at as much as 5 to 10 inches of rain across our area, which could cause some flash flooding and then some river flooding. And those of you who have been through a hurricane before, you know how our rivers start to come up a few days later. So we'll be watching the Tar River, the Neuse River, the Cape Fear for some big river flooding. Gusts could produce some power outages and down trees, and we have a level 1 risk for tornadoes as we get through the next couple of days. Flood watch to start with. Again, WRAL weather alert day starting tomorrow, 5 to 10 inches of rain. There could be some pockets where those totals are higher, especially the farther south you are. Right now, this is the 5 a.m. advisory just popped in. It's moving northeast at 7 with winds at 45 miles per hour. And it's really the speed that we're going to be watching now with our stats over the next couple of days, because it's the slow movement of the system that's going to cause all the problems. So here's a look at the path, and this is going to be Thursday into Friday as that system continues to move up across North Carolina. Futurecast for us today. We're quiet this morning, but Futurecast wants to bring in maybe a few showers later this morning. And then first big rain band shows up right around lunchtime moving through. And once that starts, it's on. We're going to continue to see these rain bands on and off. It's not going to rain the entire time, but we're going to see waves of rain and downpours with these as well. Look at that, 5 o'clock tomorrow. You can continue to see these waves of rain coming through. We'll follow the path of the storm here with all the rainfall. And you can see as we get through the day, Wednesday and Thursday, we just continue to see this system produce producing a lot of rain, especially into the day on Friday. So flooding is going to be our main threat, but we will have some gusty winds that could knock down some trees. And of course, we'll also be watching for tornadoes as well. By late Friday, it starts to pull away from us. 15 to 20 inches of rain down to our south, but our northern counties 5 to 7. From Raleigh southward, 7 to 10. And closer to the coast, it'll be 10 to 15 plus. We do have a level 1 risk for severe storms starting Thursday in our eastern counties. And it is typical that landfalling systems like this produce some isolated tornadoes. And that is something that we'll be watching. Weather alert day for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday coming up in just a little while. We'll talk more about the specific impacts to our coastline.
Elizabeth, thanks. Tonight is National Night Out, a time to promote police and community partnerships. But the chance for bad weather has prompted some cities to postpone or even cancel events. The changes due to Debbie.
And if your pup needs a designer makeover, Dolce & Gabbana has you covered. The new perfume for dogs.